Time for sound design. In this video, I'm going to sample my bass guitar that you see here in the background, and I'm going to create this sound with it. So this is an unscripted video, so I actually don't know what you just heard, but I'm going to connect this Fender bass guitar, the P-Bass, directly to Ableton. And in Ableton, I have this chain set up. So I have the bass amp from Ableton, then the speaker cabinet, and that's it basically. So I'm gonna record a few separate notes into Ableton, gonna flatten and freeze it so I have the amp in the sample, and then I'm gonna put that sample into Simpler to see what kind of sampled instrument I can make from this. Right, let's go. Alright, that was the recording with the bass guitar into Ableton. So as I said, the first thing I will do is duplicate this track and then freeze it and flatten it, which now means that the effect, so the amp, is within the sample of this track. And now I'm going to load this sample into the Simpler track that I have here. And let me open up Simpler here. So when I play C3, that's the pitch it was recorded in. So here, this is the high E string. Maybe that's for later. First start with the lower E string, C. So maybe start with this one. Change the start and end points. So since this is already a C, when I play a C on the keyboard, I don't have to tune it. It's just a little bit off, so I'm gonna detune it a few cents here. But I'm thinking to play it an octave higher, so octave C4. First crop it and maybe see if I loop it. I don't think the looping is necessary, but what we do want to do is change the attack, so maybe 10 milliseconds, and also the release is increased. And I'm thinking if we put an arpeggiator on this, that could be nice. Change the rate maybe. Put the sustain a bit down so it's less sustained, the sound basically. And now it's time for some effects. So let's start with a little bit of reverb. I'm gonna use the hybrid reverb this time. And lower the dry wet. Put vintage mode on subtle. Put a bit of echo on there, it's a delay. Put the dry wet at 30, feedback at 30. Delay time at a 16th note. And I want to create a bit more stereo spread, so I can use the delay time offset here. So when it's 0, and then I do 7. And I also gonna enable in the character the wobble. When you do it at 100%, it's very wobbly, so I'm gonna put it at maybe 25. So the last two bars, the C is transposed one octave up for a bit of variation. And as always, now I'm going to group all these effects into one instrument rack so I can save it as a sampled instrument. I'm going to take the Arpeggiator, the Simpler, Tuner, Utility, EQ, Echo, and Hybrid Reverb and do Command G or Control G into an instrument rack and then save it as bass, guitar, arp. So now I added it to my library of sampled instruments. So yeah, just to recap what I did, I sampled the Fender P-Bass player guitar into Ableton and it sounded like this. So I've just played a few notes on the low E string, later also on the high E string, but I didn't use those sounds. So nothing special here. And then I flattened and freeze the track, so I have the amp in it, and then I put that into Simpler. Then I came up with this. It's a nice arpeggiated synth-like sound. It doesn't really sound like a bass guitar anymore, that's the point. Alright, so that was it for this sound design session. Let me know in the comments how you sample guitars or how you use electric guitars in electronic music. And if you have any questions, also let me know in the comments, and see you in the next one.